Look at that light. There we go. Wait. Stagnation. Crypto warriors. Ladies and gentlemen of the one and only flat earth. Top of the morning to you. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a spectacular weekend and one of those extended Thanksgiving situations which we had going on. Double O is not joining me on the show today. We can't do that. That's going to be a bit annoying. Sorry if you could hear the notification there. Things are a bit awry in my life, if I could say that myself. So let's jump right into it. So Double O is not joining me today. Has to handle some family activities and such, right? So with no further ado, we'll go ahead and jump right into it here. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin and, well, I said Bitcoin like I was going to be talking about anything else. All we talk about is Bitcoin. But today, we're going to be looking at why it's important to really take control of your financial future. Right? We must all be empowered. We must empower ourselves because I don't know where else will. Empower ourselves to take control of our financial future because the experts, or at least as they call themselves, seem to not even know what they're doing. And you cannot blame them because no one has lived through this sort of economic situation before. The sad thing is, having that that image that you know what you're doing, and every time you are wrong, like Jim Cramer. So let's take a look at some comments. We'll look at some Bitcoin TA, and we'll jump right into it. Starting at the top here, we have BK Crypto in the house. Okay, boom, up front and center, man. No other than. Good morning. Grand rising to you, champions. All right. Bitcoin Shango in the house. What's up, champion? I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit here. Hope all is well, brother. And happy post Thanksgiving to everyone, by the way. All right. Double O is not here, but he will always be in the comments. Champions. Let's go. And of course, we have Reno in the house says, Grand rising to you too. Listen, man. Once upon a time, the only flat planet in the solar system. Incredible. I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, Double O in the house there, right? And we have Reno Gamble thriving on the flat planet. Listen, man, I am equally thriving on this flat planet. From what I understand, if you're on the flat planet, everyone is 6 foot tall, making six figures, etc., those types of things, right? And of course, Bitcoin Chango says, Janet Yellen is pretty incompetent too, by the way. Where does the list end, man? Jim Cramer, incompetent. Janet Yellen, as you already mentioned. Jerome Powell, okay. Pretty much anyone who calls themselves a financial expert using, Chicago economics is pretty incompetent because I don't see how they cannot make this deduction. I mean, they're aware of it. They're smart people, right? It's intellectual dishonesty. I'm not trying to really roast them. So with no further ado, let's jump right into, wrong situation there, folks. My apologies. I am sleeping this morning. Let me get the right screen share going and we'll get going here. So we're going to look at some Bitcoin TA here. That's not going so well. One moment, folks. Almost there. All right, look at that. Slight technical difficulties, but we fixed it in a jiffy. So we're going to be looking at Bitcoin TA. Right now, if you look at Bitcoin sitting at 37,000, right? $36,976. What I have here on this chart right now is the 200, the 100 day moving average there in yellow, as well as the 30-day moving average in green. This is one of my favorite group of indicators because once we cross over, at least once the 30 crosses over that 100, it's gone and it's not looking back. As you can see, since when was this year? The 28th, right? October 18th. We saw the 30-day moving average crossed over there, over that 100-day moving average, and we have not looked back ever since. Now, this is on the 4 hour chart here. At this point in time, we see that there's a bit of weakness showing here. We're seeing a pullback. We're now below that 30-day moving average and just dropped below the 100-day moving average as well. So I'll be keeping an eye out to see if this falls all the way down to about that 200-day moving average range. And that is always a great opportunity for more accumulation. Now, previously, we can also see that Bitcoin here, it's been stuck around this 35 to 38K range for a while now, which is not surprising because if we look back, you see that this same 34 or 35 to 38K range has been a point of support or resistance in the past, as we can see there with that rectangle. So maybe we'll move within this range for a little while, right, before we continue to carry on. Or we might break above it, and that will give us our 40K there. So there is that. Now, this technical analysis, as I've described to you here, does not only apply to Bitcoin, it applies to a bunch of other different things as well. And as part of us just trying to provide more value to our community, because someone has to do something, right? As part of providing more value to our community, Double O and myself are going to be definitely collaborating with the BK squad to provide some of this information. We'll give you guys more details on that as we go. Speaking of the BK squad, okay, if you haven't checked out our friends yet, look at that website. Go and grab yourself some of this feisty merch they have going on there. Right? Amazing. Well then, with that then out of the way, let's jump right into the show here. Please, by the way, like, share, subscribe, etc., etc. Like the video, especially this live one, which we are on right now. All right. So let's see. Before we jump into today's show, what I'm going to be talking about is this idea of empowering yourself to really get out there, push the limits for the sake of your financial future. You see, we live in a time where it seems almost very clear at this point that the traditional financial system as we know it is changing. I don't think there's any argument there. This is why we're all gathered here, because we're aware of crypto. We're aware of the potential that crypto has. But we have people who call themselves financial experts, which, credit to them. They're informed on what it is they do. But these people are consistently incorrect. So I think it is important that we all kind of take that leap of faith. I think one of the biggest things that stops people from holding on to their own cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or otherwise, is the fear of losing it, the fear of taking full control of your own money. I think a few shows ago, I mentioned speaking with my neighbor, right? Extremely well-off guy, doing great for himself. But this person is scared to hold their own Bitcoins, right? However, they're able to manage other things, whether it's driving cars that cost more than one Bitcoin and such, without even giving it a thought. If you can trust yourself on, to drive an expensive vehicle and maybe an expensive house, you have to protect those things yourself. Well, there's insurance as well, but I think the first line of defense is yourself. And I think of Bitcoin in the same way, right? So let's look at who is bullish on Bitcoin as we roll into this year. As we know, these are the same groups, right, that essentially rebuked Bitcoin from the beginning. Whether it was, JP Morgan calling it a scam or, there's the list goes on and on. Warren Buffett, all of these people. However, it is very important to point out that their tone is changing at this point. As you can see here, I woke up this morning and this one came through my RSS feed. Morgan Stanley, right? Serious Bitcoin bull run to kick off after 2024 halving. That is nearly 150 days away. Morgan Stanley speaking about the halving. I think it is important to note this as a significant shift in tone. Now, something that I find that I'm a bit battling with is if Morgan Stanley is pushing for Bitcoin, and we know CBDCs are also on the way, right? How would those two things work along each other? I'm interested in knowing what you guys think of that in the comments. So please let me know. All right. We're going to read some comments here before we push on. But actually, I'm going to go over this one here before we go on. Standard Chartered, right, maintains a bullish stance on Bitcoin. They claim Bitcoin could reach 120K by 2024. Again, significant change in tone. It is worth noting for sure. So let's look at some comments and then we will push on here. Right. I think we've already seen this one here. Janet Yellen, the incompetent one. Sure is. I forgot the other lady's name. But if I do, I would point it out here. So Bitcoin Shango says he's been doing dad duties. Oh, look at that, man. Helping get my kids settled. Double O, good morning. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Fathers of America, out and about, man. I'm not a father yet, but one of these days, when I become a father, I think you guys would recognize that is one of the greatest fathers on earth. I'm just kidding. So Bitcoin Shango says, I came out of retirement to stack sats for my grandkids, whereas kids and grandkids, etc. As soon as I realized there was a way to pass down an actual unconfiscable value. Jeez, can't speak this morning. Unconfiscable value, I was hooked. Absolutely, sir. And I think this is exactly what I'm talking about when I speak about empowering ourselves, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable in the Bitcoin space, getting comfortable with all the various things that you have to do in this space to adapt. These days, if I was to send Bitcoin, I don't even think about it because it's now second nature. But it's one of those things where you have to get your feet wet first. And then from there, everything is smooth sailing. All right. So these are the two things I wanted to point out today. We have Jim Cramer. No doubt, I'm sure everyone in the comments can attest. Jim Cramer has a very solid track record or history of being incorrect on various calls, right? Now, some could look at it as maybe they're doing an inverse thing where he says this is going to be bullish, but he's maybe taking the opposite side of the trade. Or he's saying that something is horrible, you should sell it. And, he probably has a short position waiting for when the price starts falling. But that is just my speculation, right? We're not accusing Jim Cramer of anything other than being wrong and horrible at his job, right? So with that, then, Jim Cramer, right, is now admitting that he was wrong for prematurely calling for people to sell their Bitcoin. He says that Cramer gave a sell call on Bitcoin last December when it was trading at 17,500. I remember this time because around the same time we were saying, 15K is, or 14K was actually the number I was looking at, 14 to 13. But this man was telling people to sell their Bitcoin at that point in time. That is almost at the bottom, a point where we should all be accumulating Bitcoins. The financial advisors of America was pushing for people to sell. He says he admits he was wrong on his predictions, and the Bitcoin price has surged about 100% since then. This is exactly why, I brought this up here, because I think it is very important that everyone kind of has this mindset of understanding that we are responsible for doing our own research. Honestly, we have to really take a deeper dive. We are no longer in the lazy financial days, right? Things have changed massively. And I think in order to get a grip, very much like Bitcoin Shango mentioned there, he came out of retirement once he realized that he could pass down this wealth that is, cannot be confiscated by anyone. So I think it is worth everyone doing this, a similar sort of thing, right? This is what I'm doing. This is what Double O is doing, and many others in the Bitcoin space. We cannot sit around and wait for, people who have maybe other agendas or have a serious track record of being incorrect. but people listen to them just because of their status on TV, right? Now, while this is happening, or while this guy was pushing for people to sell their Bitcoin, we can see here at the same time, right, a contradicting situation happening. We have Robert Kiyosaki, right, Rich Dad Poor Dad, essentially letting people know that at some point it might be too late to get into Bitcoin. Now, this guy is a gold bug, very much like Peter Schiff, right? These guys have invested heavily into gold. Yet here we are, um, how would they say, it? Shilling Bitcoin, if you will, right? So Robert Kiyosaki advised investors to get into Bitcoin and ditch fiat money now. It's very interesting. Before it's too late, reiterating that workers and savers in US dollars are losers. Well, I think if you look at the interest rates, you can see where he's coming from there. Kiyosaki has made a number of bullish predictions about the price of Bitcoin, ranging from 135 in the near term to 1 million. Well, everyone has a price prediction for Bitcoin. I'm going to give mine right now. I think it's going to be 120K for sure in 2024. And, probably, not probably, I actually have it on a chart. I think it's 1.2 million by 2026 it was. I will go back and look at the chart and confirm where I put that line, because I've done an extensive technical analysis that outlines my price prediction for Bitcoin as well, right? Now, in a Twitter post, Robert says, "Great news, gold reaches new high. Bad news, workers and savers are losers. Bad news." He's been saying for the same for 25 years, right? Don't be a loser. Get out of the fake money system. Get into gold, silver, and Bitcoin now before it's too late. I would say if you get into just Bitcoin, not financial advice, you should be fine because clearly Bitcoin is outperforming gold. Gold has been absolutely flat for the past. I apologize for that sound there if you were able to hear that. Gold has been flat, absolutely flat for the past 10 years. So I'm not sure where Robert is thinking the gold is going to go, but nonetheless, you can never go wrong with diversification. All right, let's look at some comments here and we will carry on then. So we have Bitcoin Shango. Says, oh, sorry, we've already read this one before. Says, CBDCs equals government control of money without bankers, and Bitcoin may be the banks. Will remain relevant for a small fee, of course. Bitcoin may be the bank's way to remain relevant for a small fee, of course. Absolutely. I think if you I was reading some of the white paper on CBDCs from the BIS, Bank of International Settlements. And in this document, they break down the CBDC into two parts, right? One being a retail CBDC, and the other part of it being, I guess, if you will, corporate CBDC. I don't remember the exact term they use, but essentially that is what it boiled down to. So, with a corporate CBDC and a public or retail CBDC, it seems to me now that it's going to essentially usher in an era where we can split the finances of the people. You can have the rich or those who consider themselves corporations under a separate monetary system, essentially. I mean, it's still CBDCs, but it's a separate system where the rest of the world cannot necessarily audit it. Obviously, these are private blockchains. And then we have the retail blockchain, which is for everyone else, for you and I. And I think with that, you already see a separation, right? What wealthy people might be able to engage in from a financial standpoint, maybe the instruments or the practices which they may be able to engage in will not be seen or under the same rules or guidelines as maybe a retail CBDC. It has not happened yet, but we see the possibility of something like that arising from that configuration. So just calling it out before it happens. But very good point there, Bitcoin Shango, and I agree with you on that. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comments down below. What are your thoughts? Uh, Oh, another question here. What are your thoughts on this? And if you have any ideas for another video you're interested in seeing, definitely leave it in the comments below. Also, check us out on Twitter. We're always looking at the comments. In fact, we responded to a comment recently, and that video is going to be going up later on in the week here with a two-tier system. That is right, double O. All right, we'll look at a comment here from Modesta Loritis. I think the response video we did is actually for Modesta. Modesta says, hello, a stupid question. If America goes full cashless, other countries will have to follow. Some countries going almost full cashless. That's a very good question. If it was Modesta that asked the other question as well, I think it was a question about evading the government, and I'm not sure it was you, but I think in that case we definitely had a video where we described that we are not evading the government. But I would definitely like to take on this question before we close this one out here. So, if the US is going full cashless, will other countries follow? Well, oh, it was you. Well, we had some words in that video, Modesta. Listen, man, you've not seen me evade the government, so I cannot really give you advice on how to evade the government. Not my, not my field of expertise. Personally, the way I see this crypto space is that we have to stop running. We have to stop being in this mindset of trying to avoid the government. At some point in time, as a people, we need to be able to just stand up and just say enough is enough. We don't want to engage in these things. They can lock up one person, they can lock up 200 people, they can lock up a few, but they cannot lock up the whole nation. And in the same approach, I think countries that are switching to a cashless system because of the US are countries that do not have a leg to stand on. Those are countries that are dependent on, they're engaged in various deals with the US that allows the US to be able to deal with them in that sort of way. Say, for example, if you look at a lot of the African nations that are being taken advantage of, this is thanks to their local governments that engage in predatory deals with the West, and now the West is stepping on their necks. However, I want to point your attention to something. Over the past few years, we've seen the BRICS nation, right, come to rise. We've seen multiple countries, such as El Salvador and some of the other Latin American countries now, talking more about Bitcoin, looking at it as a serious, option as far as legal tender. El Salvador is already doing it, and so while some countries are going to switch over from to CBDCs because the US is doing so, I think that many, and actually a rising number, are going to be stepping away from that, because there's been a few things that have happened in recent history where the US did not respond as they would typically do to show strength, to show power as the world leader. They have failed on that call multiple times right now. They have failed on that call against China. They have failed on that call against Russia. And there is one other one that I'm not thinking of. I mean, I don't want to say North Korea, but North Korea is a rogue place. Who knows? But because of that failure, and because they have essentially been, how would you say, anti, or I don't want to say antagonistic, because of the aggressive approach, right, in handling Bitcoin and the crypto space right now, I think we've seen things like innovation flight. Most recently, Wallet of Satoshi announced that it will be leaving the US. This is loss of innovation from the US. There's many other companies that are leaving the US. And a lot of times when we look at the crypto news, what we see is that foreign nations are getting these businesses set up, which means something, right? It means that the innovation is not in the US. And I think over time, we'll only see that materialize in a stronger way. So there is that, right? Confessions of an economic hitman. That is definitely a good. I think it's a documentary, if I remember correctly. But I think there's definitely something to definitely look into there, right? So some countries have been nearly cashless for quite a few years. This is true. In fact, going full Bitcoin, operating on a Bitcoin standard is going to allow us to be cashless. I think we have to be in a cashless society at this point in time, simply because everything else around us has evolved. As we know, Bitcoin is referred to as the internet of the money of the internet. So we have to be in a cashless society to operate in many different areas that we are engaged in right now, whether it's in the metaverse, online shopping, and so on and so forth. So we can have a cashless society. I don't think that's a problem. Centralized cash is the problem, such as CBDCs, right? So need to establish own economic block. I think Bitcoin is sort of helping us do that as well, establishing our own economic block. All right. Um, and by the way, for Modesta, that video is going to be out shortly, so keep an eye out for it, where we responded to you there. All right. Well, final one here before I close this out. Reno Gambo says he agrees, but history wasn't kind to us, and the last time, wasn't kind to us. The last time we showed a bit of economic prosperity, Black Wall Street comes to mind. Yes, sir. I definitely agree. Well, Bitcoin Shango, I would say I agree with you there. But I think that especially now, especially for the Black community, this is an opportunity where we can gain that prosperity with no violence. It would have to be a, you know, Gaza-like activity upon the Black people for them to stop us at this point. And I don't think that that is happening. So, second chance. I really hope that the Black community does not miss out on this one, because there's only so much we can do, man. We can get on the internet and yap all day like I am right now, but if people don't take action, then nothing is going to happen. All right, so there is that. Well, final comments here, and I'll go ahead and close this out. Thank you all for hanging out with me this morning. It's been absolutely spectacular. True about BL Wall Street, Black Wall Street, but today is a new day. Facts of life. We take it as a new day and we begin to conquer. We also have Modesta says, thank you. I hope this video will be able to, yes, you'll also be able to rewatch this video. Absolutely. You'll be able to rewatch it. Come back anytime. And of course, as far as the brain drain that we hit the US is going to suck. This is for sure. It's going to be times of slow economic growth. I personally see a mass exodus out of the US happening around that time too. In fact, this mass exodus has begun. I know a few people who have moved to Ghana, literally uprooted her whole family. And this is someone who is a professional, highly paid professional, along with her husband. And they uprooted their lives and their kids and moved with the quickness. So there is something to be said for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, please subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Gentlemen of Crypto's channel as well. Those guys are the true OGs, man. We're also on X as Stackfin. Subscribe to us there or follow us there. And of course, let us know what sort of videos you'd like to see. We are more than excited to do those. And of course, Stack on Spotify. Until next time, drink water, enjoy your Monday, all that good stuff. Brazen out.